Well, hello, hello. Welcome to the Three of Skeins podcast number 61. I am Lisa.
I'm Cryss.
And away we go.
Okay.
I never know how to start.
No, she doesn't.
I don't.
It's 61 episodes in. Okay, first we have some announcements. We're going to be taking a short break for the holidays to rest and restore and, quite frankly, eat a lot.
Yeah.
So we won't have videos posted on Monday, December 26th or Monday, January 2nd, but we will still have Friday videos of each of those weeks. So, you'll see our mugs, but you'll see Lisa and Mom. We have kind of a little series coming up, talking to Mom about some stuff. But yeah, so we're going to take a short, tiny little break.
But before that, we have a video coming out on December 21st. That is our Winter Yarny YouTube Hop. Look at me saying that without stumbling. Go me. Do check out all the videos. A lot of different podcasters come together and they make really interesting projects and show them off on that day. And it'll be a great way to kick off the winter season. Oh, by the way, if you hear anything, we have the perfect ASMR rainstorm going with the pitter patter of raindrops against the window and everything. So that's what you're hearing if the mic is picking it up. What are we going to do next?
We're going to talk about Mom's project.
Oh, yeah. You got to see this.
So we'll just tell you the story.
Yeah.
Because we always tell you the story.
Shame.
We were supposed to talk about Mom's top in the Yarny YouTube Hop video, and we forgot. I was excited about my thing. Lisa was excited about her thing, and we forgot Mom's thing. So we're going to talk about Mom's thing here. Yes. And I feel like this works, though.
Yes.
Because our Friday series that's coming up is all about this top that Mom made. So you'll see the finished object, and then you'll get to watch her talking about how she created it.
About making it. Yes. So this is Mom's top. Now, did she give it a name? No, she did not. This is her lace and mohair top. Now, the story behind this top. Here, let me let you out. I couldn't figure out where to put it. Well, I'm going to hide me for a second. You got to see this. This is gorgeous. Now, the story behind this top, and by the way, it is soft and weightless, is that Mom saw this on Pinterest. And there was just nothing about it. Yeah, there it is.
And that was the original.
That's the only picture she has of it. Those two pictures. That's it. And she decided, you know what? I think I'm going to make that. So she went through this process she's developed over time to try to figure out how to recreate something, or at least create a version of what she saw. Oftentimes, it's just one or two pictures. So starting on December 23rd, we're doing a 3-part series called How to Make It Without a Pattern. And Mom and I will be talking about her process for making something that you've only seen a picture of and coming up with a very reasonable facsimile of it.
And this is Tunisian crochet.
Yeah, this one she did in Tunisian crochet, and she combined 2 yarns. One was a mohair, and the other was a universal yarn called Whisper Lace, which is super.
A woolen silk.
Oh, gosh, yes. Super fine, though. It is a genuine lace weight yarn, and it just gives the most weightless results. I'm in love. I'm actually just fingering it here. I keep wanting to touch it as I go. But this is what Mom has been up to. She used, I think, she used a 5mm hook. Wow. But that's how she got this kind of airy feel. She used a larger hook than I ever imagined. But if you would like to know about the making of this and how you can, make your own things that you just happen to have seen, tune in December 23rd, noon as always, and that's going to be a Friday.
Yay.
We like it. I'm going to have to get some pictures of Mom wearing it, but
Yeah.
she wasn't up for that today. So, Cryss, what's going on with Crystal?
Well, you see, what had happened was I showed y'all my half a top that I have in the green. I really, really like that yarn. But I may end up having to rip out the whole thing because I made it for my old measurements. I think it's what I have right now is going to fit me currently. So
These things happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Cause you know what happened? I've had those measurements for a few years, and so those are just the numbers that I plug into things. But as I am, wearing clothes each day, I'm noticing some things don't fit like they used to. So I can't see. I literally can't see the weight that I gained, but I know she's there. So I'm just gonna have to start my top over, and you know what? That's okay. Because I think I might do a couple of things differently anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine. And this isn't going to be like a mohair or something that's going to be a nightmare to rip out. So
no, it should slide right out, as a matter of fact.
I'm not even stressed about it. I think I'm just going to, take advantage of my little holiday break and not try to make anything else before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So my last make will be what you will see Wednesday in the YouTube Hop. And I'm just going to chill and start planning next year's makes.
Yeah. And you know what? I think there is something to be gained from going back to zero sometimes to a thing. Now, you know me, I will resist ripping out as long as I can. But sometimes that's the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Just rip that thing out. You may just make it again, but sometimes you re-envision it, and maybe that's why you were stalled on it too. That it just wasn't living up to the vision you had. So I think it's a good thing that you're ripping out, and we'll have to plan some time, and we'll all three measure each other, so we have fresh measurements to work on. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Mom hates measuring me because I'm quite ticklish. So anytime she's like anywhere near my underarm or down my side, I'm like, yeah. And she's like, stop it.
And can I tell you, it's very hard to measure somebody going,
That's quite difficult. Terrible model. Oh my God, just stand there, whatever they're doing to you, and I'm just like, no. I dissolve into a fit of giggles. So this will be interesting. It always is.
It always is. It gets weird in here, but it's okay. It's very pleasant. It's a pleasant weird, but it's weird.
I don't think I've reached my weirdest self yet.
No,
I think there's there are depths to plumb.
That's something I heard on the British news, that there was a discussion about working from home being terrible, but and one of the objections was that you will become your oddest self. And anybody who's worked in an office knows that there's plenty of odd right there on the office with
I'm
you.
like,
plenty of odd.
So what are you working on?
I am still working on my Dofuku. And I love Muhammad Ali. I love this bag. Now she has a sleeve. A sleeve is born.
Okay.
I'm so happy. I am absolutely happy with this thing, and I cannot wait to wear it. So I'm hoping that I will be able to finish out the year by actually completing this.
I think you should be able to.
Yeah, well, I have a sleeve and
the
collars to do. Well, the collar to do. But I've been able to fill in my my pie chart.
What is the pie chart?
It's just a little motivator for me. I divided it up along the circle, and every time I finish a section, I color in a piece of the pie. So
how
I know
did you
how much.
decide what percent of the pie each thing was? Oh,
I just made it up.
okay.
It's fairly logical. But when I was thinking about it, I decided that each front was 20%,
You just decided.
that the back was 25%,
Oh,
and the other 25% would be the sleeves. So they're 12.5% each, and I forgot about the button bands.
no,
I did. Oh, great. It's 5%. So it all adds up to 100%. I know that's not how you would have done it, but
I would have actually tried to use like the area of the finished garment and divided it.
I'm not a math-based person. This is a visual motivational tool. Okay, when I remembered that there were button bands, I just sliced some out of the fronts. That's what I did.
Okay, well,
this is just a visual motivational tool. If you're not a math-based person, draw a circle and cut it up however you like. There you go.
That's not math. It's not math.
I'm not a math-based person.
Okay, stop saying that.
I can't
need
wait
you to
until
stop
I get
saying
my mug.
that to justify things like the abomination of a pie chart. Okay.
I cannot wait to get my mug that says
We are all math-based people. We are in the math-based world.
Mm-hmm. So she say.
We are math, and math is us.
That's what she said.
That doesn't even work.
Anyway, so this week, right, I tend to work my knitting like a sewer. So I like to try things on. So I pinned it together with some hairpins.
Hairpins?
Mm-hmm. They hold amazingly. There's still one in here, and it's still locked right in. Take a look at this. This is just a regular old U-shaped hairpin. These are the best things that I have found yet in a decade of knitting to actually hold work in progress together. It doesn't snag. It doesn't slide out. As a matter of fact, you saw it just come out of this bag, and this pin is still in place.
Okay, that's one way to do it.
And this will work on crochet too, beautifully. It slides in and out of the stitches, no problem. Because, sometimes I have trouble with the locking stitch markers. By the time I get it opened and pulled out, I've pulled the work a little bit. So if you want to pin your work together, and I think you should, that way you don't find out that it doesn't fit in some way after it's actually completely finished. Because that's something I notice. A lot of knitters, they don't try things on until they have woven in that last end.
Oh, no. That's
and woe betide you. So I pinned it together, tried it on. I absolutely love the length. I like the width. Now, what I did with creating this jacket was it's got some ease to it. And I knew I wanted it to have about 6 inches of ease so it would have that nice roomy fit. Mm-hmm. But I did not want to make the shoulders too wide.
Right.
So what I did was my high bust measurement is about 2 inches less than my full bust measurement. And I based the ease on my high bust measurement. And when I put it on, the shoulders fit just right. Mm-hmm. And I still had room in the body where I wanted the room to be. So that's something you might want to consider when you're making a top that has a lot of ease, or that you just want to fit a certain way. You might want to base the size you choose on your high bust measurement, because I didn't get a whole bunch of ease up in here, but as it went down my body, I got the ease that I wanted. Anyway, that was just something I was like, yeah, this bad boy fits nicely. And I know that before it's finished. Mm-hmm.
Which is when you want to know that.
Yeah, when that way I'm not crying and ripping out. Just like
we all know what you meant. You'd have to act it out.
Because I've been there. I've been there. But so that's my one sleeve. What I've got left to do on here is I'm going to put in my accent band of color and then my cuff, which is about 1.5 inches of cuff. And this sleeve will be finished. And I'll be able to start the other sleeve.
Cool.
Way cool. But look at it. She came out of the bag, still pinned together.
So you're in like the last 23%?
Exactly. I'm at the last 23% of this jacket. My pie chart was not an abomination. It's a visual motivational tool. And it'll work for you whether you're a math-based person or not.
Everyone's a math-based person. Listen.
So they say.
Okie dokie. I can't.
I'm gonna get me a mug, like for real.
So, what else is on the official topic list, Lisa?
Well, I was, I think we've all, if the knitters at least, have all been seeing this Sophie scarf that's everywhere right now. It's a cute little scarf that's an easy knit. And I saw a conversation online, basically, that this woman said that when she got the pattern, the scarf turned out to be so simple.
Wait a minute. This is someone who bought the pattern?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. The scarf turned out to be so simple that she thinks it should have been a free pattern.
I think a lot of things should be free.
Like Wagyu beef. Wagyu beef should be free, right?
But not people patterns.
And I have to tell you, I was a bit appalled at that sentiment. I was appalled. Because here's the thing. When you buy a pattern, you're not just buying that set of instructions. You're buying all the work that went into developing that set of instructions. And she just obviated all that work. If it was that simple, she could have looked at the pattern, at the picture, and made one of her own.
If it was that simple, she could have come up with her own idea for a scarf.
Well, that too. But
that's the thing. It's not just
the mechanics.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's not just getting the pattern. It's not the instructions. It's not the photos. It's not just that. It's just that you sitting at home with no ideas for what to make. You are not creating your own sweaters. You're not creating your own scarves or socks. You're waiting for someone else to tell you what to make. This person did. Mm-hmm. I'd be appreciative. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there staring at your yarn.
Exactly. And then when I looked a little bit deeper into the Reddit, because I was up in the Reddit streets, I saw a bunch of people posting, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And it really is.
From this pattern?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not that simple.
People wanted to know, they had difficulty starting. They didn't read the instructions for how to bind off, because the question she asked, I was like, oh, you didn't read the instructions for how to bind off. And they want to be told how to block it. And I'm like, so clearly this is not as simple as you think it is. And even if it is dead simple, there is a need for dead simple patterns in this world.
Exactly.
And every time you get a pattern, you are saved hours of work, because you don't have to figure out how to start it. You don't have to figure out what it's going to look like. How many
stitches you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to figure out this thing has a pair of edgings. You don't have to figure all of that out. You don't have to figure out how to increase and still keep those edgings intact. And I just, like I said, I was really quite appalled.
And here's the thing. It's fine to say, oh, I don't want to buy that pattern. That pattern does not have value to me. I have a problem with someone saying you shouldn't be permitted to sell that pattern. Mm-hmm. Like to just say this is a thing that has no value. After you bought it, you like this design enough.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. You're buying the design, not just the pattern.
I feel like people will just say any old thing on Reddit. Sometimes I think some of them are just provocateurs. Yeah. Because I can't imagine
farming.
Yeah, I can't imagine that people really believe that certain patterns are just.
Oh no, there were a bunch of people that upvoted it. They were like,
they have no value, and I'm just like, but you can't do that. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. You can't make that thing without the pattern. You did not have those ideas. Mm-hmm. So clearly there is value in it.
And that is the magic. I always call that the magic that designers bring, because Petite Knit put together this tiny thing that is so cute. It is. It's adorable. That it's kind of taken knitting world by storm. And because it's easy to do once you have the pattern.
And if you ask me, that's part of the issue for some people, that it's become very popular. And that will always just gall some people.
Yeah.
To see someone else enjoying like a moment of success for their work.
Yep.
So then it makes you feel better to say, well, that's not really work. It was too simple.
Yes.
Because you know what?
Yes.
I don't know this designer, but she could have just made one for herself and kept it pushing. She ain't have to.
For real.
She could just rock her little scarf and go on with her life. She did not have to write a pattern and make it available for purchase. She really didn't, because she has some skills, so she can make and wear her stuff. I don't know. I don't know what's going on out there. Is it me? I don't know. Maybe it's just because I only recently started reading Reddit forums. I feel like it's just getting worse. I feel like people are getting more demanding and more entitled and more insulting. And I just don't get it.
And I know we sound like Petite Knit stands, but I'm a designer stan.
I don't know anything about Petite Knit. I don't knit. So.
I've never met Petite Knit, but
like, do you know her real name? Because I don't know.
I have no idea what her name is. But I have seen this sentiment enough.
It's not just this pattern.
It's not just this pattern. It's just that this pattern was such a great example of it. There's something that looks simple. And is simple if you have the skills to make it. But it's a different process creating it than just replicating it.
I don't know why there's so little respect for designers. I don't know what's going on out there. But
because it's cute as heck, and everybody I see rocking it looks adorable.
Buy it or don't. That's where I am.
Ask me what it costs.
What does it cost, Lisa?
$4.
Stop it.
All of $4. 400 pennies. 16 quarters.
I get it, Lisa. I get it.
Now I'm mad now. I'm like 16 quarters and you're complaining.
Wow.
I have seen
I assumed it was just like standard, like $8. It's $4.
I have seen people spend more on a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah, well, yes, that is true. I don't know. I can't explain it. Honestly, at this point, I'm a little tired. I'm just like, if you can do so much and you don't need these designers,
go do it.
Exactly. Like go make your own thing.
By all means.
The pattern trade is doing a brisk business, because all these people who talk so much about what they could be making, they're making the stuff the designers are selling. They're not making their own things. It seems to me like a very small percentage of knitters are actually designing their own things. And I get it. Like, even if you have the ability, sometimes you just don't want to do all of that. But that's because the designer saved you a lot of work.
Yes.
It is a quicker, smoother process because you already have so much of the information there in front of you.
Someone has already worked out all the kinks and all the bugs. They've done the 6 or 8 swatches it takes to figure out the right yarn and hook size. That means you only need to make one.
I don't get it.
But I just wanted to put that out there, that patterns.
$4.
Yeah, it was $4. Yes.
$4 for you to own that pattern in perpetuity. So you can just make it over and over again as many times as you like.
Yes. And it's translated into, I think, 6 languages.
Shut up.
I kid you not.
Okay.
Them 16 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
That I haven't been
Y'all
to Starbucks
need to pay
in a
this
while.
woman for a pattern or shut the hell up. How about that?
I haven't
That's
been to
just it.
Starbucks in a while, but I don't even know if you can get a regular coffee at Starbucks right now
I don't know.
for $4.
I couldn't tell you. But okay, yeah. Literally, it's like the question is, what else do you want? What does it take for you to decide that someone's efforts have value? What do you have to get from a pattern besides someone coming to your house and knitting it for you to think, oh, okay, this is worth the money? Because I feel like I hear this a lot, that there are all these reasons that they're trying to exclude certain patterns or designs or things from having value.
I'm going to tell you something now that I'm sorry. I know this is going to like set you off a little bit. One of the people asked, oh, does anybody know any free patterns that are just like it?
People do that all the time. And I'm like, first of all, do your own search. You're already on the internet.
Can I tell you, that's what bothered me? It's not that they asked. You know, I don't care that they asked, but that you're already online and you didn't Google it yourself. You wouldn't Google it yourself.
I don't understand, because I see people post photos and say, oh, looking for something like this. And I'm just like, so look for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm always stunned when someone offers a suggestion.
Somebody came back with a list.
And I'm just like, how does this work?
Mm-hmm. Somebody came back with a list. But here's the other issue. There are similar things out there, or at least smallish scarves that you can wear the same way that are free. So there are free ones out there. So why are you pointing the finger at this particular designer and saying you don't deserve to be paid for this work that you did? That I love, by the way, because I bought it.
This is something I can't understand, but I do wish is something. I feel like designers are a little cowed because it's always the many against the one. Mm-hmm. And I do wish more designers would talk about it. And they come up with all these pricing schemes and ways to like try to appease these very loud people, but stop. Stop doing that. You did the work. Your work has value. The people who respect that value will pay for it. And some of the ones who don't respect that value will still pay for it. Clearly.
They certainly will.
And, you can't expect everyone to be your customer. Some of the people, it's just not really worth the effort. Mm-hmm. Just do what you do and move on, because you're never going to satisfy these people.
Hermes does not have a pay what you like pricing scheme. Neither does, Christian Lacroix. Neither does, Perry Ellis. American
Neither
designers.
Does Old Navy.
Neither does Old Navy. That's right.
Neither does Old Navy or Target. All right.
You pay what they ask for. You wait for a sale. That's it.
Yeah, I do see quite a bit of that. Every once in a while, one person's going to come out and say something that I think is crazy. I'm just always amazed how many people jump on board. Like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, no, none of it. You're all wrong.
That's it. Let us know what you think about this issue in the comments, please. Do designs have value? And should designers be paid?
What is the bar beneath which it has no value?
Yeah.
That pick and choose. How do you make these decisions? Explain how you decide that not just value for you, but to make the blanket statement, this should not be for pay because it's so simple. Okay.
Not that simple.
How do you break that down? Because I'm confused. I too spent some time on Reddit.
What Reddit hole did you end up in?
I'm trying to remember how the conversation even came up. I think maybe people were talking about diamond painting or something. I'm not even sure. But somebody said in the comments that, basically making something from a pattern is no different from painting by numbers because you're being given step-by-step instructions. I feel like the person who said it doesn't knit, crochet, or sew.
Yeah, no, they don't. That's clear to me.
Because even never mind that you still, I'm always arguing that you have to bring your own skill to the table when you're working from a pattern to make sure that pattern works for you and fits you when it's done. But when you start something that you're making from a pattern, you start with string.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You start with a ball of string that you turn into a wearable garment. Paint by numbers is a picture that's already on the page. You didn't have to make that picture. And someone's telling you not only which colors to use, but where. When you are done with making a crochet or a knit garment, you will have learned skills that you can apply to your next crochet or next garment.
Yep.
So I learned how to design things for myself from following other people's patterns, because those designers had knowledge and they shared that knowledge, and I've learned from it. Are you going to be able to paint a landscape after doing a number of paint by numbers?
Or diamond art.
And what are you
not
learning? What skills are you acquiring from coloring in someone else's picture?
And I'm not knocking the diamond art people or the paint by numbers people, but this is a different thing.
It is. It is very different. So again, a lot of people jumped on and said yes, and oh, you're so right. And I was just like, and like every once in a while I see something on Reddit and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna make an account and respond. But there's no point. There's no point to jumping in the echo chamber of all these people who are just like only hearing the thing they want to hear, right? So I generally, I just have a rule. I don't argue with people on the internet. There is no point. There's no point. But I do want to
sometimes
assert that no, I don't want someone who does paint by numbers to think, oh, I'm going to go and knit a sweater now. Because this pattern is going to tell me everything I need. And I think that's also just really, again, misunderstanding what patterns are. Yes. People think that you get, it's not like a kit. It's not like when you get a paint by numbers kit where you get the paint, you get the brushes, you get the picture, you get the instructions. It's not like that at all. So you go buy a pattern and some string and see what you come up with if you've never done it before, as opposed to never having done paint by numbers before. Like, how far can you get your first time paint by numbers as opposed to your first time making a sweater if you've never knit or crocheted? Because I'm curious. But again, it's just like minimizing other people's efforts. And I'm just like, so like the whole conversation veered off into like, trying to like define the act of creation and all of that. But I don't know that we really need to get into like esoteric philosophy to say, no, they're different. I mean, they're different. It's apples and oranges, and you don't have to hate apples. You don't have to hate oranges to recognize that they're not the same thing.
Yeah. And I can see the difference between when a person who is just following the instructions, let's say in a paint, I'm going to use paint by numbers as an example, as in a paint by numbers kit, to when an artist does a paint by numbers kit. And they bring that picture to life.
People coloring on YouTube, because they be hurting my feelings. I'm like, how you do that with crayons? My crayons never did that.
I know. But when you bring a person's skill, or a person with skill, or a person who is in the process of acquiring skills, to this basic, like you said, the ones that do crayons offend me. Not really, but I'm like you said, my crayons never did that. Never.
What is the sorcery?
But when that person brings their skill to even this simple material that we give to children, they come out with something different, So, no.
I don't know, like, I guess there's like degrees of making. I don't know.
There
How much transformation has to happen before you recognize it as a skill? I guess. I don't know. Because I'm sure there's differences in levels of skill for paint by numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I will look and see if I can find this artist. There's this artist I've followed on and off on YouTube, but he does photorealistic drawings with ballpoint pens.
I saw like a thumbnail of that, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch that. It's gonna upset me.
Ballpoint pens, and he on his channel, he's even like, well, because he's developed this skill over time, he's tried lots of pens, and he has whole videos where he's like, oh well, I'm just trying out different pens today.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a difference to him because his skill is such that, but it wouldn't matter which one of those pens I used. That's all I'm saying.
I have a perspective as a crocheter, right? And as someone who has actually, I've made things both ways. I've made things with patterns and I made things without patterns. And I'm trying to, when I dispute someone's point of view, I do try to explore that point of view and ask myself, well, how would I feel about this if I didn't crochet, if I wasn't making my own garments? And I think one thing that is true is that I would look at those two skills and think, well, which one of these would be more accessible to me? Which one of these do I think I could learn in less time?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it would be the paint by numbers, because I'm not starting with string.
And P.S. the diamond art, when I saw, Crystal can tell you, I saw a diamond art kit at the store and I was horrified because some of those pieces are smaller than a grain of rice.
Let it go. Let it go.
I just don't have the eyesight to deal with pieces that small.
Okay. She hasn't even tried it. She's traumatized by diamond art painting. Mm-hmm. But again, that's another thing where when you start, there's already a picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm just like, you're not, you're going to the 10th floor starting on the 9th as opposed to, starting at ground level. I'm having a hard time seeing the equivalence between those two things, because having let me ask you this. If you had a paint by number set of instructions, just the instructions, and you try to draw and paint that landscape with just the instructions without that piece of paper they send you that already has the images and the numbers on it, could you do it? Could you recreate that painting with just the written instructions and without the whole kit that comes with it? Because in crochet, the person is taking those written instructions and turning it into this finished object that did not exist in any form. Mm-hmm. Remember, it started off as balls of string.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, it's just clearly not the same thing. You couldn't start with just instructions and create that painting without the kit being there for you. So,
and honestly,
a little different.
Sometimes even if you have instructions, you don't end up with the same thing. I participated in my one and only mystery knit along. It was a Downton Abbey mystery knit along, and they didn't even tell you what the thing was.
Yeah, I would never even have signed up for that.
I was very into Downton Abbey at the moment, and they released a section of the pattern each week in time for the new episode of Downton Abbey to come out.
Oh, yeah, that's how they got you.
So you knitted along to Downton Abbey. Well, when it was finished, mine looked absolutely nothing like.
Well, what was it?
It was a shawl.
Okay.
But mine didn't come out quite the right shape. And I had written instructions. Piecemeal, but I did have written instructions. And that happened to a lot of people. We saw what it was supposed to look like, and a lot of us were like, So even with written instructions, with no visual reference, it was very difficult to produce the exact same thing.
And you don't have to like justify participating in a hobby that requires a different skill set by proclaiming that other hobbies don't require a certain skill set.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to compare them to one another at all. You can do your thing and other people can do their thing, but you don't have to try to diminish what someone else has accomplished.
Yeah.
You just don't.
But here's the other question. Do people, because I hear a lot of downing of knitting and crochet in particular, but do people do that? A lot of people. Because it's something that's associated with women's work.
Okay.
Is that the key to all
Sounds
of
like a lot of very chilly men saying that.
Who should remain chilly.
Because they don't have nice warm sweaters, but okay.
But it's women too, because I think there's some internalized misogyny there. If it's something that's predominantly done by women, there's this kind of...
I think it's also... it's that as well, but I think it's also that it has transitioned to a hobby, because this used to be a skill. This used to be what you needed to do to create clothing. This was how you dressed yourself. This was how you dressed your family.
Mm-hmm.
And now having the money to buy things from stores is now the standard. That's the thing people are chasing. So if you're just doing this on your own and you don't need to do this to actually dress yourself, it's easier, I think, to dismiss.
Yeah, because there is this dismissiveness to it.
That seems to be going around a lot.
And there is a dismissiveness to it. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but if you're in a room and people are talking and you happen to be knitting or crocheting, sometimes the people around you assume you can't hear them. Because you're not looking at them, you can't hear every word of what's being said around you.
People do like eye contact, I guess. That's how you show you're paying attention to someone. I know that people who don't knit or crochet don't get that about knitting and crochet. That people will have whole conversations while knitting and crocheting.
Yeah. And we're not really looking at each other, so to speak. But I've heard some people say some things, and I'm like...
And we all do, quiet down when someone's counting.
Yes.
That's part of the etiquette. Yes. So
if you hear someone counting, everybody at the table gets quiet. Like, you done, girl? All right.
So I understand that does come with its own etiquette that people might not be aware of. But yes, people do assume that. I think we talked about it, a Reddit story someone posted where this guy's mother didn't like that his wife would bring knitting to family functions. She thought it was rude. They had their own issues going on, but that was part of it. And I guess it's a subjective thing. It'll be rude to some people, and it won't be rude to others. But that's what's going on Reddit. Funny enough, there was a thread about what people did and didn't like in knitting and crochet podcasts, and one person said they don't like when people just go to Reddit to get stuff to talk about on the podcast. Oh well. But I do think, because there are so many people who don't read Reddit, because like I said, I only very recently started looking at Reddit. It was her fault. She got me into it. Because you would tell me like these outlandish things from Reddit, and I'm like, wait, what? So I think people who don't read Reddit might want to be aware of some of these conversations, and probably have had these conversations themselves. So I think it's valid to just bring it to a different audience.
Yeah, or sometimes I will see things that change my perspective, or are just such a diametrically opposed perspective to my own. It makes me think about, how I feel about certain things. So I enjoy it.
So, but I try to limit myself to once a week because it's a time sink. But yeah, that is it. That's what's been floating in our heads for a while.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes like I find myself reading something on Reddit and I really do like spend time like puzzling over it and like kind of examining it, because it's just very curious to me.
So it's so different from how you think.
Yeah. So like I said, Reddit is an interesting pool of topics for conversation.
Anyway, I'm just going to remind you guys this is our last regular Monday episode for 2022.
I know, right?
Yep. I want to say happy holidays.
Merry, merry, jingle, jingle.
Indeed. Happy New Year. And we will be seeing you guys again on Monday in January.
January 9th.
January
there's
9th.
So many Mondays.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's Mondays in all the months, I suppose. That's when our next regular podcast will be airing. So thank you so much for following us this far. I hope everyone has a happy and safe holiday, and see you next year.
Wow, next year.
Next year.
Bye. Stay stitching.